Let's get reaction to the president's address. Joining us now, Fox News military analyst Jack Keane, retired four-star general, former vice chief of staff at the U.S. Army.
And chairman for the Institute of the Study of War, and also with us, Jillian Turner, former National Security Council staffer under Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Jillian, let's start with you. Your reaction.
So the president has now made one of the toughest decisions, maybe the toughest decision he'll ever face as commander-in-chief, and that is to put troops in harm's way, keep troops in harm's way. And I think tonight, you know, he really did an eloquent job. He delivered that decision to the American people in his own terms. You know, he took care to say, it flies in the face of my first instincts to keep Americans in Afghanistan. But you know what? The position that I've held over the last 6 months has changed my perspective and tempered my views on this, and I'm now going to adjust the policy in order to reflect that. I think the most important things he said in the speech was, number one, we're not nation building, we're killing terrorists. I think that's the Trump doctrine right there that we were looking for. I think that, more than anything else I've heard him say on this issue, encapsulates his view of the American role in the Middle East today. The other two things quickly, Brett, are we're no longer broadcasting our plans, and we're shifting from a time-based approach to an approach based on the conditions on the ground.
Think about, General, the difference between this speech and the speech that President Obama delivered, where there was a timeline set, numbers set. The critics always said, by doing that, the Taliban operates in calendars, not clocks, and they just waited until that moment.
Yeah, I'm impressed, because we finally got a commander-in-chief who speaks honestly, not just to those troops who are in front of him. And I love the way he talks about them at the beginning, and he expresses genuine feelings for them, and the way he ends on them. And you know those are serious feelings he's talking about. But he spoke so honestly to the American people. And we've had this political deception for such a long time dealing with Afghanistan, and you put your finger right on it. President Obama, when McChrystal and Petraeus come before him and they give him a plan to win in Afghanistan, he gives them 25% less troops than the minimum that they had requested. And then he goes out and makes a speech at West Point a few days later, never having discussed this with them, that he's going to pull the troops out in 15 months. That decision, those two decisions, not giving them enough troops and then pulling them out, doomed Afghanistan to this non-winnable situation that brought President Trump to the rostrum tonight.
But let me ask you, Jack, you know, I covered the Pentagon, I covered the White House. You know, I traveled to Afghanistan and to Iraq a dozen each times. We've heard these numbers before. We've heard that we are going to get the Afghans to fight on their own before. So for skeptics of this plan, however well delivered or packaged, how do you say it's going to change with 4,000 troops on the ground in Afghanistan?
Well, 4,000 troops in and themselves, if those are actually the numbers, I mean, we think they are.
Right.
People are speculating. The president hasn't told us what they are. And certainly that's helpful, but in and of itself, it's not decisive, and we can't play games about that. But what he's committed himself to, which his predecessors have never done it, and that is Pakistan. And what he's not telling us, he says, if I can't persuade you diplomatically, economically, to do this, I'm going to target these people. He didn't say that tonight, and he shouldn't say it. But I'm telling you, that's really what he means. When he says this is going to start changing immediately, he is dead serious about it. We've got a commander-in-chief who understands the reality of what's taking place in the war. He clearly would rather not do this. But he surrounds himself with people who are experienced, they've got good judgment, they're steady under pressure, they've given him that advice, and he's demonstrated one of the great qualities that a president has to have, and that is flexibility and the courage to change your mind in the face of new and compelling evidence. And I think this president has done that and stepped up to this thing tonight in a way that I truly commend him for.